Shout out to that one random McDonald's employee who gave me a large cup of ice with a tiny little shot of Diet Coke. That's exactly what I wanted. A bunch of ice and a small little smidge of Coke. I'm sure you're proud of yourself because you saved your company like 3 cents of Diet Coke. You can pat yourself on the back now. Also, thanks for forgetting the straw because now I have to remove the lid and take a sip out of it like an absolute savage. Anyways, let's get straight into today's video before I rant, before I lose my mind again. It's the small little things that get under your skin, let's be honest here. So let's get straight into today's video. I actually wanted to talk about a couple of announcements. And I have to say, these are figures that I don't really cover consistently, or two manufacturers that I don't really cover because it's just impossible to do that. I've been trying to chop up the videos a little bit more. I started making longer form content. I don't know if there's a difference between either one. I haven't seen like a direct correlation on which videos get the most amount of views. I'm not sure if the longer format works or the shorter format, but we're going to get straight into it. Today, I wanted to talk about two figures, as I mentioned, manufacturers that I don't really talk about, but I have mentioned in the past that I want to kind of expand or reach a little bit more. And these are two characters that I've actually had on my radar for quite some time. And I've kind of had an opportunity to purchase one of these in the past, but I think this is kind of like maybe the end-all version. I'm not sure if it's a reissue, but we'll get into that in a little bit here. Let's get straight into the first one, which is the Beast Kingdom Lobo action figure. This thing is massive. It's supposed to be like almost 8 inches, if I'm not mistaken, or over 8 inches. Beast Kingdom has been known as a line that does DC collectibles at a slightly higher scale than McFarlane. They're closer to the 1/9 scale, so their figures are usually about an inch or a little bit over an inch bigger than McFarlane. Now, I've heard multiple different things. I've heard people that say it's one of like the best manufacturers out there, and I've also heard some that heavily criticize it. I think I saw a video from, what is it, Brad, the DC guy, and he actually did an unboxing not too long ago for a Beast Kingdom Batman action figure, and it was like a complete disappointment. There was like paint rub all over it. The figure was just falling apart. That might have just been an outlier. For the most part, I actually hear pretty solid things about it. Like they're a good solid manufacturer that makes good solid DC collectibles. By the way, they actually make some other great action figures on the side. I have seen them work on a lot of Disney projects, which is really nice. But today we're talking about this beautiful Lobo action figure. Now, it is important to keep in mind that Lobo is supposed to be one of the heavy hitters in the DC universe at the moment. I'm not sure what's going on in the DC comic book side of things because I haven't really kept up too much with the DC comic book universe, but he is supposed to make his first live action appearance on the newest Supergirl film, which is set to release next summer. So I do feel like his first appearance in comic book form is going to spike, and I think almost every collectible that is based on the character is definitely going to go up in value, and it's going to have quite a bit of a demand. So if you guys are interested in this figure, I strongly suggest you guys claim your pre-order. The figure will come with 9 hands total, 2 separate head sculpts, a hook and chain, and then 2 of his iconic weapons. Not to mention, it will also come with a dog accessory, which is, I don't think that he's ever been featured in action figure form. At least I can't quite remember off the top of my head. I know McFarlane has done his versions, and he did like one where he just came with an extra accessory, and then another one where he came with his Space Hawk, but I don't think we've ever seen dog in action figure form. And I should mention, it's not technically like an action figure. It's not articulated, but there does appear to be at least a decent amount of paint apps, so it definitely brings dog to life a little bit here. The jacket that he is wearing will also be a sort of soft fabric, so it brings a little bit of realism to the character, to the action figure. And I'm not sure how often Beast Kingdom does this. We have seen it from time to time with certain IPs, but not across the line. We have seen it, for example, with Gandalf not too long ago. I think they released a penguin with some soft goods, but it's not something that they consistently do. So it's really nice when they actually include features like that or items like that. The head sculpts look absolutely phenomenal. I can't give them enough credit. They usually do a very good job of essentially capturing the essence of the character, and I think they just did a brilliant job here when it comes down to this figure. Now, it is worth mentioning, according to the description, this figure is going to have about 20 points of articulation, which I'm a little bit worried about. I mean, it's not like a deal breaker, at least in my personal opinion, but it is something to keep in mind. I don't expect my Lobo figure to get into some crazy intricate poses. This isn't a Daredevil or a Spider-Man action figure, but still, I would expect a little bit more articulation there. 20 points is kind of scaling back a little bit. And just to put things into perspective, Jax just released their DC action figures, which are a smaller scale. I think they're 5 inches, about a little bit over 5 inches. And those figures had about 27 points of articulation. So you can kind of compare both of them. You usually expect a little bit more from Beast Kingdom because they're a higher end product. And just to prove my point, this figure is being shopped around at like 140 to 150 at most US retailers. I'm assuming that if you buy them directly from the source or from other websites, you may be able to save a little bit on money, but I'm still going to assume that you're paying well over $100 for this figure. So just worth keeping in mind. Now, I couldn't actually tell from the description or from the promotional images, because in the description they don't really talk about this, but there is a possibility that the pants also are soft goods, because I tried to find like the knee joints on this figure and I couldn't quite find them. So they may be hiding under some soft fabric, but even his boots and his shin pads appear to have a really good a combination of like silver and a really nice wash on it to just kind of bring out the details. Overall, it's just a really good looking action figure. If you guys are interested in test driving this manufacturer, I highly suggest you guys go on Amazon or directly to the website or Big Bad Toys or Entertainment Earth and maybe buy one of their Beast Kingdom action figures just to kind of get a feel for their line and see if it's something that you're comfortable with, see if it's something that really appeals to you. But if you just want to jump directly into the Lobo figure, you will have to wait until January of 2026. So as I said, definitely make sure to submit your pre-orders before time runs out, because I do feel like the closer and closer we get to the release of Supergirl, and then eventually once we get a trailer, I do feel like the demand for this character is definitely going to be on the rise. And then next, I wanted to talk about an action figure, as I said, a manufacturer that I rarely talk about. And I'll be honest with you guys, I do tend to be hypercritical of most of their lines just because I don't like the articulation scheme. I think sometimes they do release certain collectibles that are slightly overpriced, and I feel like they could easily scale back and appeal more to the consumer base or expand their consumer base, and I don't think they've done a very good job of that really up to this point. But they do from time to time release absolute bangers. I do own a few NECA action figures in my collection, and as time goes by, the more and more that I see them dive into like horror franchise, Alien, Predator, so on and so forth, they've always kind of had a soft spot in my tiny little shriveled up heart. And I actually ran across this Ghost Face action figure. This is supposed to have, or I should say, it's draped in soft goods. Like his entire robe is soft goods. The articulation, the body is hiding underneath, which I'm okay with because it makes perfect sense. That's the character Ghost Face. You don't really get a really good look at the interior of it. The engineer work or the articulation overall isn't really visible, but as I said, I'm okay with it because that's how Ghost Face is displayed in the film. So I'm going to assume that the articulation here is very minimal. But as I mentioned prior, I don't expect Ghost Face to be getting into some like dynamic poses. Not to mention, he is a part of the Mortal Kombat universe. He is an add-on character, so maybe you can throw him in there with your McFarlane action figures. It is worth mentioning it's slightly taller than most stuff that you get from McFarlane. Like most of the McFarlane figures are about 7.5 inches. This figure is going to stand at 8 inches, so it is slightly bigger. But this figure just looks extremely well designed. It seems to have like a really good presence if you were to pick it up and throw it on your shelf. It will come with a regular knife, a bloodied knife, a voice changer, 4 hands total, an alternate head, and then 3 separate different faceplates. Or I should say 3 alternate faceplates total. There should be 4 of them, and each one of them has its own unique flavor. I personally love the bloodied one. That's how you have to display a ghost face, as well as the bloodied knife. But as I mentioned prior, this to me feels like the end all a ghost face figure. I know they've had alternate versions. There was like a Target exclusive one. I think there was like the Inferno version, but this to me is like the end all ghost face action figure. It's just iconic. It's going to display incredibly well. And as I mentioned previously, I'm going to assume that this might be a reissue because I have seen this figure before at multiple different retailers. It is worth mentioning they have offered different iterations of this character as well. Not only is this a reissue of an older release, but they also did release it in like a single kind of bubble packaging line a few years ago, and I think that one was just a simplistic version. It didn't come with any extra accessories. It was just a figure and maybe a knife or no knives. I couldn't quite remember, but that one was a simplistic stripped down version. However, it was still kind of pricey. I think it was going for about like low 30s, like $31, $32, but with no extra accessories. So it is worth mentioning that if you guys shop around, you should be able to find whatever version of Ghostface really fits into your display. But this one, as I mentioned, caught my eye, especially if you're picking up Mortal Kombat figures. You can throw them in there, or if you're not doing it, if you just want a good solid Ghostface figure in your display, this is the perfect one. And I'll count myself in that group because I don't necessarily have a horror display, but it really doesn't matter to me. I would probably just throw it into my DC display or just have a new shelf and start building out my horror collection and just kind of start from there. What's interesting about the price point here is this figure is being retailed at $44.99 on Big Bad Toy Store, and I can't quite remember Entertainment Earth, but it was about the same price range. I'm not sure if that's a markup from those retailers or is that the new price point for these type of NECA figures. I think the previous price point was $34.99, and then it got marked up all the way to about like $38.99 or $37.99, but it's almost close to $40. I'm kind of interested to see if this is going to be much more affordable at like Target and Walmart. So it's going to be interesting moving forward to see this figure pop up through multiple different retailers. But as always, this is just my personal opinion, my personal take. I just wanted to showcase these two figures. It really caught my eye. It got my creative juices flowing, and I decided to just give you guys my personal thoughts on them. But overall, everybody's gonna have to make their own personal choices. Are you guys interested in these figures? Did you pre-order any of these? Do you plan on pre-ordering any of them? Let me know down below in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, if you guys enjoy just rambling action figure content, make sure to stay tuned. We do it pretty consistently. We've been uploading on a daily basis almost for like months now on end, and you know, I absolutely love putting these together for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoy it just as much. Stay safe out there, enjoy the hobby, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.